Good morning, everyone, and thank you for that introduction. Thank you so much, Mensa, for inviting me here. Last night, as I was preparing for my talk, I thought it would be a good idea to find out if I had what it takes to be a Mensa member. And so I found out that you have to be in the upper 2% of the population, according to this standard intelligence test. Now that's impressive. And then I found out that there are only about less than 200 members here in the Philippines. It's very impressive. So I am in elite company. And then I found out that you only charge $20 as membership fees. So for such intelligent people, your business sense must belong the lowest 2% percentile. And don't worry, that's why I'm here. So I'd like to share with you my journey of how I transformed a passion into a small business, and then became a brand, and how I tried to contribute to the world of global design using a language that we're familiar with here in Asia. So this is me before I had hair, and that's my mother. I grew up here in Cebu, and my mom invented a technique actually of working with rattan back in the 80s. She took this rattan and she laminated one over the other to create these beautiful forms. She has an invention patent, and it's a technique that's widely used in the industry today. And then so I grew up with all the craftsmen we were making furniture at the back of our house. And I grew up with all the craftsmen, and they were teaching me how to build things. And so I enjoyed my childhood so much, I wanted to be a kid forever. So I wanted to take up design. And my father, being a Chinese businessman, said, there's no money in there, you take up business. So I went to University of the Philippines, the same school where Angela went, and I took up business. In the middle of accounting class, I said, this wasn't for me. So I applied for the fine arts program, and I failed, They rejected me because I couldn't draw well enough. But a few years back, that same college invited me to be their commencement speaker. So I went to New York, to my mother's alma mater, and there I learned about the language of form, how form can bring out emotions in all of us, subconsciously. And then I went to, so we were creating all these abstract, playing around with space and form, and it's so enjoyable. Then I went to Italy and Germany for about 3 years. I lived in Europe, and then I began to appreciate all the things that I grew up with. All the people working. When you leave your country you take for granted all the things you grew up with, you begin to appreciate everything. So I went back home, and I wanted to create my own language. Now this was very difficult because, as you know, global design trends are all made in Europe. It's like a couple of groups meet in Paris every year, and they decide what the trends are, what the form, and everybody follows it. So I looked at nature, and I said, what makes nature beautiful? It's actually this transparency. When you see through trees, when you see through when the light hits it, it has a volume, but it's actually transparent. There's no end to it. So I wanted to make furniture like that. So this was my first design, called Yin and Yang in 1998. Now you have to remember that when I made this, all these open, transparent weaves that you see now in all over Asia, there was nothing like that. I kind of invented it. So this is my first design. It's a very, very simple form, very simple shape. But what's beautiful about it is that when you put it on a balcony like this, it allows the light to pass through. It's cool because it allows the air, and doesn't block the view. So I knew that I was onto something. So my next design was inspired by baskets, things that we grew up with in culture in Asia. And this is my second design. It was made out of a skeletal steel frame, and with rattan that was woven around it. And this is called Baloo, after Rudyard Kipling's the bear in Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book. And it's made out of rattan, steel, and abaca rope. And there you see, when you bend rattan like that. It creates a very strong membrane. And the abaca rope is used to tie it to that steel frame. Now, in my designs, because, let's go back here, there, because they have that very transparent look, the interior has to be as beautiful as the exterior, because you can't hide any of the supports. And so my third design was inspired by the human body. It's called Pigalle, after the red light district in Paris. And uses a hand-sculpted steel frame, and as many as 3,000 knots are used to tie that abaca rope onto that frame. Now, abaca is the strongest natural fiber on Earth. And at one point, all the world's currencies were made out of this abaca material. So this is the chair. It looks like a computer rendering, but it's not. And you see, when the chairs are outside, they're very organic. They look like they're part of nature. Because in nature, there are no straight lines. Okay. So I'm inspired by our culture here in Asia. And so, like fish traps, I made a design called the Amaya dining table. The press likened it to trapping a hurricane, inside a cylinder. And here, you see that my designs create beautiful shadows on the floor. And those chairs are called dimple. Because of the holes, on the sides. Actually, the legs go in there, so they stack. Yeah. And this, okay. And then I began to do what was never done here in this part of the world. Asia is a manufacturing, it's known as a manufacturing hub. We make OEM furniture. So we make furniture in so many factories here, but they go under different brands, different names in Asia. And so I wanted to change all that. It was very ambitious, and I wanted to put my name on every piece that went out. And that was hard to accept, actually, believe it or not. So for a few years, companies started ripping off all my labels and putting theirs, in the stores. And so for about 1 or 2 years, no one wanted to buy anything from me. And soon I got a whole different set of clientele, people who were willing to put my name on there. I guess it's really hard to create anything luxurious or hard to create a global brand from a third world country. And that's the truth. So I used these images in the beginning to show what the brand was about. And it was very difficult really in the beginning, but gradually the press, because the designs were so unique and so different, back then there was no social media, everything was controlled by traditional printed media. So the editors loved me because everything was very new and fresh. And this is the voyage bed. It's like a boat, because I believe that when you sleep, you take a voyage to a world of dreams and you come back the next morning. And so Brad Pitt bought this bed, and then and after that my whole life changed. And that's how I became known in this country, and probably that's why I'm speaking in front of you here today. And then after working so long with natural materials, I was very bored, because with natural materials, it was always brown. That's the color of dead plants. So I said, I wanted to work with other things, to introduce color. So I worked with fabric, and began to make my own knotting techniques, and I made this design called the dragnet. It was like a gigantic frozen fish net. Now made out of steel, wrapped with a cotton fabric. And then made beds, sofa beds, like cathedrals. This is called Hagia, inspired by the Hagia Sophia. And then taking a sweater, I tried to look at the cross section of what the knit would be like and blow it up. And I made this design called the cabaret. It uses an outdoor acrylic fabric over wire there. And that's how it should be used outdoors. And let's see now. So inspiration comes from everywhere. Crushed Coke can became the inspiration for the Lola chair. And this one, my first major award in Hong Kong called the Design for Asia Award. Now this award is normally given to industrial products like Sony, Samsung, Hyundai, and this year they awarded it to a rattan chair. That year, 2005, they awarded it to a rattan chair. This one. The techniques are similar to boat building. Yeah, so this is structural. And then there's a version also I made out of polyethylene and aluminum to go outdoors. This is that whole collection. Yeah, these are other designs now for outdoors. So in everything I do, it's a celebration of craftsmanship. I've used the strengths of our people, and we're here in this part in Southeast Asia. We're very good with weaving. So this is a chair that won an award in New York in 2001. Google and Nike, they have this in their offices. It's their thinking chair. This is called the Luna. So it starts out like this with a core out of rattan. And then we take it out to make, they look like these, shells like these. Then we put wooden legs underneath, and then recycled foam, and then recycled jute sack, and then the weaving starts. And after about 2 or 3 days, it looks like this. And the beauty about this design is there are 2 weaves, one coarser one on the outside, and a finer one on the inside. And now, like that. And now the craftsman has to take these 2 weaves together and stitch them seamlessly like this. Yeah, so this is, every chair is like a work of art. This is another design of mine called tilt outs, and laminated them one on top of the other to create an edge like an old book. So this is the birth of the parchment. It's resting on stainless steel legs. It's like really old manuscripts that are floating on top of these legs. These are the chairs. They look like bound manuscripts. Yeah. And these are the cabinets. So they look like sheets of paper that go inside a wooden case. This is the parchment. So, as I said, inspirations comes from everywhere. Blades of grass became the Yoda chair. A bowl of noodles became the noodle chair. Okay. And this is my own version of sheep. This is Harry. And this is Harry in its natural habitat. And so I'm inspired by everything, structural. So from Ferris wheels, I designed this papillon. It looks like a gigantic hammock. Elephant. This actually is like the elephant in the room. There's that. The ears are cork boards, and everything opens up. Actually, the legs, and the tail is a little broom. So it's fun. And even dim sum, steamers became dim sum coffee tables. Yeah, there. So it's made out of leather and bamboo. So all my designs are really a celebration of culture and things around us. And this was a challenge to make also. It's called the bloom. Because, and this is like making the work that goes into here is like making a wedding gown ball. So in making this chair, we had to open up a whole new section of weavers and dressmakers. And it's made out of microfiber over a shell. And inside, to keep that shape, there are these thin polyethylene strands that go inside them. And the men finish it off at the last process because it takes a lot of strength to pull that needle through that fabric. So this is bloom, and this is leaf, and this is lasso. This is like the stork bringing the baby. So design to me is really fantasy. These are angels. This is a light made out of abaca silk. This is another design called Limbo. This is actually now using metal, weaving. Woven very, very fine metal. It's woven over a life-size mannequin that we cut up and twist into different shapes. And to keep the structure, we put these cast brass flowers. And these are These were designed 2 years ago. And yeah, so these are the lamps. Okay, so that's a chandelier. It's like a life-size, this is the acrobat. They look like acrobats. These are hanging over a table, made out of fine copper wire. Okay, and this is the peacock. It's my interpretation of a traditional Filipino chair. This one won an award just a few months ago, testing thousands of entries as the best chair in hospitality design. Is the biggest contract show in the US. Yeah, so my design is inspired by nature, by travel, by cultures. Okay, so this is in 2005. Yeah, I wanted to join this show. This is the most prestigious show in the world. It's in Italy, it's in Milan. And when they heard that I was from the Philippines, they wanted to put me up back on the third floor, back close to the bathroom on the back end of the hall. So I said, well, I wasn't going to impress them with more furniture because I'm sure they have it coming out of their ears. So I said, what if I build something like really different? And they said, yeah, like what? Then I said, how about a car? A car made out of bamboo and carbon fiber and electric engine in it. They said, okay, if you build that, then we'll put you right up front, when you come in, the whole building. So I had about 6 months to make it. So we built some shells. So we wanted to make a very light skeletal steel on a very light steel frame. Something made out of carbon fiber, bamboo, rattan to shell. And this was the birth of the Phoenix. It's a prototype. It's a prototype car. In fact, we really wanted to make it run, but we didn't have time. We built it for that show, and we completed it. And true enough, they put me right up front. But then. But after this got so much attention, even from the world's automakers, of how natural materials could be applied to an industrial product. And the reason, and there's even books now written about it, that in fact, so you get a lot of questions like, yeah, it's rattan, it's not safe and everything, but so is a motorcycle. The whole purpose of this is to build this really inexpensively. And then they biodegrade, and then you put on another shell afterwards. So this is the Phoenix, and these are the interiors. And this was exhibited in Milan. Then it went to a university in Germany where they were trying to to develop it further, put an electric engine in it. And I only made this just to get into that show to sell my other furniture. But I got invitations to speak even at Volkswagen and the design studios, and it was in Mercedes-Benz in the magazine. It was even a cover now of a book published in New York called Post-Petroleum Design. And even an ad back in Belgium. It says, tomorrow is what we make it. So, okay, so this is just the business part, This is where we sell all around the world, the furniture. These are showrooms we have. This stuff doesn't interest you. And so I design other things like electric tricycles. This is a bamboo bicycle. The problem with most bamboo bicycles today is they just look like steel bicycles that you replace materials with bamboo. So I wanted to create a totally different kind of bamboo bicycles. These are accessories I designed, inspired by Asian fishing boats. This is a bar I designed in Cebu. If you have time later, drop by. And this is I designed 12 years ago. It's been a cover of a lot of books. It's all woven. These are playgrounds I designed. This is one of our newer collections that's called Apollo. And I designed a suitcase for Tumi using bamboo and ballistic nylon. And it's expandable. I designed these Iron Man medals. And I wanted to bring this is a tri-show. I wanted to bring back the romance of the tri-show. But this one has GPS, it has cup holders. Again, I really did this out of fun, but we were getting a lot of orders for it. This one's in Paris. And so I had to do a lot of structures all around the world. These are hotels in Switzerland, this is in Portugal, and this is in Greece, this is in Costa Rica, and I exhibit in different shows around the world. And so what I've done is actually led a revolution of other Southeast Asian designers and brands now. And trying to contribute to the whole global world of design with a different aesthetic, with a different language that's unique to Asia. And this is this one is a project. There was the APEC meeting held here 3 years ago, and this became they're usually really boring, you know. And so the president asked me to make a setting where they could all have dinner. This is inspired by the rice terraces. So I designed these chairs, and the government borrowed these chairs, and this was the actual event a few years ago. And so I had all these chairs that the government borrowed. I didn't know what to do with it, so I donated them to UNICEF, and they asked me to put tags on them, who sat where, and then they auctioned them, you know. Oh, sorry. And so this is this is what they went up for auction. You know? The Canadian chair went for $40,000. You know, Obama's chair was $40,000 US. You know, the Canadian minister's butt was more expensive than Obama's butt. You know? And so that was a cool. They pocketed about $8 million. It was $200,000 in 10 minutes. The auction. That was the fastest they got. You know? And so I had to. I want to end with this. You know, we're working now with Disney. You know, Star Wars, since all geeks love Star Wars. So these are some of the designs that we're making. I thought this was fun. This is called Imperial Wings. These are takeoffs from my designs. Yeah. And normally when you do Star Wars products, you don't get to put your name on it. But they gave me the only license here in Asia where I could put my name together with anything Disney makes. And so this is Harry now. Harry now became a Wookiee. Okay? And this is Sidious for Darth Vader chair. And these are lamps. These are little. It's called Little Jedi. These are actually little people, and their lightsabers light up. And this is Vader. These are like it's like a computer. It's a laptop lounge chair. So we'll be launching these designs next month. Okay, so that ends my presentation. Thank you very, very much.